Welcome back to another story on Infidelity Tales Lab. Before we begin, tell us, where in the world are you watching from? Now, let's dive into today's story. Chapter 1. The Man Who Built Everything. Max Carpenter learned two things from his father before the old man died. Never trust easy money and always protect your family. At 34, Max had built Carpenter Security Solutions from the ground up, a cybersecurity firm that protected mid-sized companies from digital threats. It wasn't glamorous work, but it was honest, and it paid well enough to give his family the life he'd never had growing up in South Boston's projects. His office in downtown Chicago overlooked the river, but Max rarely enjoyed the view. Most days he was buried in code, tracking vulnerabilities, building firewalls, teaching clients how to protect themselves from people who wanted to destroy what they'd built. The irony of what was coming wouldn't hit him until later. Max's wife, Marissa LeBlanc Carpenter, worked as a real estate agent for Shelton Premium Properties, one of the city's most prestigious agencies. They'd met 7 years ago at a charity fundraiser where Max was providing pro bono security consultations for nonprofits. Marissa had been volunteering, elegant in a blue dress, laughing at his awkward jokes about encryption. She'd made him feel like he could be something more than the poor kid who'd clawed his way out of nowhere. Their daughter, Emma, had just turned 5. She had Marissa's dark hair and Max's green eyes, and she was the center of his universe. Every morning, he'd make her pancakes, cut into stars while Marissa got ready for work. Every night, he'd read her stories about brave knights and clever princesses. Emma loved school, loved her friends, and loved bringing things to show and tell every Tuesday. That Tuesday morning in October started like any other. "Daddy, can I bring Mommy's phone?" Emma asked, her small fingers clutching her backpack straps. Max looked up from his coffee. "Sweetheart, why would you bring Mommy's phone? She has pictures of the butterflies we saw at the zoo." Mrs. Welch said, "We should bring pictures of our favorite family day." Marissa was still in the shower. Her phone sat on the kitchen counter, the rose gold case reflecting the morning light. Max hesitated. Marissa was particular about her phone, but Emma looked so excited. "Let me ask Mommy first," Max said. "I already asked her." She said okay. Emma bounced on her toes. Through the bathroom door, Max called out, "Marissa, did you tell Emma she could take your phone to school?" "What?" The water turned off. "Hold on." Marissa emerged in a towel, her hair wrapped up. "Did I say what?" "I asked if I could bring your phone for show and tell." Emma repeated, "You said yes when you were getting dressed." Marissa's face went blank for just a moment. A micro-expression Max would later remember analyzing frame by frame in his mind. Then she smiled. "All right, I did. But sweetie, I need my phone for work. How about you take Daddy's phone instead? He has those butterfly pictures too." "Okay." Emma was easily satisfied. Max handed over his phone, already open to the photo album. "Don't lose this, kiddo. It has all my dad jokes saved in the Notes app." Emma giggled and carefully placed it in her backpack. That moment, that simple exchange, was when Max's life took a turn, though he didn't know it yet. Because Marissa's relief when Emma agreed to take Max's phone instead was palpable. And Max, who made his living reading patterns and finding anomalies, filed it away without quite knowing why. He dropped Emma at Riverside Elementary at 8:15 a.m., watching her run toward her classroom with his phone bouncing in her purple backpack. Mrs. Welch, her teacher, waved from the doorway, a kind woman in her 50s who taught half the neighborhood kids. At 8:47 a.m., Max was in his office reviewing a contract when his brother called. "Max, you busy?" Owen Carpenter's voice carried the rough edge of someone who'd seen too much. Owen was a detective with Chicago PD, Homicide Division, and the only family Max had left. "Always. What's up?" "Just checking in. You still coming to shoot hoops this weekend?" "If Marissa doesn't have another open house scheduled. You know how it is." "Yeah, I know." Owen paused. "Hey, everything okay with you too?" Max frowned. "Why do you ask?" "No reason. Just, you seem stressed lately. More than usual. New contract. Lot of pressure." "We're fine, Owen." "But were they?" Max thought about it after they hung up. Marissa had been distant lately, working longer hours, taking calls in other rooms, spending more time on her phone. When he'd mentioned it last week, she'd gotten defensive, said he was being paranoid, that this was her busy season. Max had let it go. That was his first mistake. His second mistake was not trusting his instincts when Marissa had been too relieved about the phone situation that morning. But Max Carpenter hadn't survived building a business from nothing by ignoring patterns. He'd just been ignoring the wrong ones, the ones in his own home. At 9:30 a.m., Max was presenting security protocols to a potential client when his personal phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. "Mr. Carpenter, this is Principal Walsh from Riverside Elementary. I need you to come to the school immediately. It's urgent." Max's blood went cold. Emma. He excused himself, grabbed his keys, and was in his car within 60 seconds. The drive to Riverside took 8 minutes, though it felt like hours. His mind raced through possibilities. Emma was hurt. Emma was sick. There'd been an accident. The parking lot was wrong. That was the first thing Max noticed. Too many cars, and a police cruiser near the front entrance. Max's heart hammered as he strode through the doors. Principal Walsh, a severe woman in her 60s, was waiting in the lobby with a uniformed officer. "Mr. Carpenter." Her voice was ice. "Come with me." Now, Chapter 2, The Unraveling. The walk to Principal Walsh's office felt like being led to execution. The uniformed officer, Officer Donovan, according to his nameplate, stayed close behind Max, not threatening but present. Through classroom windows, Max glimpsed students bent over their work, oblivious to whatever storm was brewing. Emma sat on a chair outside the principal's office, her legs swinging, clutching a stuffed elephant Max didn't recognize. When she saw him, her face lit up. "Daddy, hey baby girl." Max knelt beside her, checking her over for injuries. "Are you okay?" "I'm okay." But Mrs. Welch got really upset and, "Emma, honey, why don't you wait in the library with Miss Cruz?" Principal Walsh's voice was tight. "Your father and I need to talk." The school librarian, a young woman Max had met at parent-teacher conferences, gently took Emma's hand. Emma looked confused, but went along, clutching her elephant. Once she was gone, Principal Walsh opened her office door. Inside, 2 more people waited. A woman in a dark pantsuit who screamed federal agent, and Detective Barry Henson, whom Max vaguely recognized from police department barbecues Owen had dragged him to. "Mr. Carpenter, I'm Detective Henson. This is Special Agent Regina Chamberlain with the FBI's Cybercrimes Task Force." The detective's voice was professional but not unkind. "We need to ask you some questions." Max's professional instincts kicked in. FBI Cybercrimes. His company. This wasn't about Emma being hurt. This was about his work. "What's going on? Is this about one of my clients?" Agent Chamberlain's expression was unreadable. "Mr. Carpenter, what's your wife's full name and occupation?" "Marissa LeBlanc Carpenter. She's a real estate agent at Shelton Premium Properties." "What? And your daughter brought a phone to school this morning?" "My phone. Emma wanted to show pictures from." Max stopped. "Wait. She was supposed to bring my phone." Detective Henson pulled out an evidence bag. Inside was a rose gold phone case. "Marissa's phone. Your daughter brought this phone, Mr. Carpenter. During show and tell, she wanted to show the butterfly pictures. She couldn't find them and started looking through the photo gallery." Henson's jaw tightened. Her teacher, Mrs. Welch, happened to glance at what Emma was scrolling through. Mrs. Welch immediately called us. "I don't understand. What was on?" Agent Chamberlain opened her laptop and turned it toward Max. "We need you to identify some people in these photos." The first image loaded. Max's world tilted. It was Marissa, in a hotel room, with a man Max had never seen. Tall, handsome in a dangerous way, expensive suit. They were in bed, but that wasn't what made Max's breath catch. Behind them, visible through the hotel window, was a distinctive skyline Max recognized. Las Vegas. Last month, when Marissa said she was at a real estate conference in Denver. "Scroll to the next one," Agent Chamberlain said quietly. Max's hand shook as he clicked the trackpad. Another photo, Marissa and the same man, having dinner. The man had his hand on her thigh under the table. The next photo, them kissing in an elevator. The next, Marissa in lingerie Max had never seen, taking a selfie to send to someone. But it was the text message screenshots that followed that made Max's vision narrow. Marissa to unknown contact. Max is working on the Donovan financial contract. Access codes are in his home office safe. Unknown contact. Good girl. Once we're inside their system, we pull everything and disappear. 6 months, baby. 6 months, and we're on a beach in Costa Rica with 20 million. Marissa, what about Emma? Unknown contact. What about her? Marissa, George, I can't just leave my daughter. George, you can and you will. Or you can explain to the cops how you helped me rob your husband's clients blind. Your choice. The messages continued. Weeks of them. Marissa providing security information about Max's clients. George, whoever he was, using that information to plan cyber attacks. Marissa's initial hesitation giving way to enthusiasm as she calculated her cut of the money. And then, buried in the messages from 3 days ago. Marissa, Max is getting suspicious. Asked why I was working late so much. George, then we move up the timeline. I'll handle Max. You keep him distracted. One way or another, he won't be a problem much longer. Marissa, what does that mean? George, it means you'll be a rich widow. Stop asking questions. Max stumbled backward, his legs hitting the chair behind him. He sat down hard, his breath coming in short gasps. Mr. Carpenter. Detective Henson's voice seemed far away. The man in these photos is George Shelton. He's wanted in 3 states for cybercrime, identity theft, and extortion. He's also your wife's boss. George Shelton, Max repeated numbly. Shelton Premium Properties. His father started the company, but George took over 5 years ago and turned it into a front for various illegal operations. We've been investigating him for 2 years. Agent Chamberlain closed her laptop. Your wife has been feeding him information about your clients, companies you've built security systems for. She's provided passwords, access codes, network vulnerabilities. Mr. Shelton has used that information to orchestrate at least 4 major cyber attacks in the past 6 months, stealing approximately $18 million. The room spun. Marissa, she wouldn't. The messages also suggest Mr. Shelton plans to harm you, Detective Henson said. That last message, you'll be a rich widow, we're taking that as a credible threat. We've already dispatched officers to bring your wife in for questioning. Max's phone buzzed. A text from Owen. Max, what the hell is happening? Got a call about Marissa? Another text, this one from Marissa. Where are you? Why are police at my office? Then a call. Marissa's name flashing on the screen. Don't answer that, Agent Chamberlain said. Mr. Carpenter, I need you to understand the gravity of this situation. Your wife has been complicit in multiple felonies. She's provided confidential client information to a known criminal. And based on these messages, your life may be in danger. Emma, Max's voice cracked. My daughter, has she been in danger? We don't know yet, but there are messages discussing custody arrangements, suggesting your wife was planning to leave with your daughter once the final job was completed. Max stood abruptly. I need to see Emma. His phone rang again. This time it was his office. Specifically, his security manager, Calvin Stevenson. Max, we've got a problem. Someone tried to breach the Donovan financial firewall 30 minutes ago. Sophisticated attack. They had admin credentials. Calvin, I can't. Max, the credentials were yours. From your home system. What the hell is going on? Agent Chamberlain was already on her phone. We need a team at the Carpenter residence immediately and get a warrant for George Shelton's arrest. Everything was happening too fast. Max's carefully built life, his business, his marriage, all of it crumbling in real time. Mr. Carpenter, Detective Henson put a hand on his shoulder. I know this is overwhelming, but right now, we need you to focus. We need your help to understand what information your wife had access to, what she could have given Shelton, and what he might be planning next. Max's phone wouldn't stop buzzing. Marissa was calling repeatedly now. Then a text. Max, please. This is a misunderstanding. I can explain everything. Another text. Don't let them turn you against me. I love you. Then think about Emma. She needs her mother. Max stared at that last message. The manipulation was so obvious now, so transparent. How'd he miss this? How long had he been the fool in his own life? A commotion erupted in the hallway. Raised voices. Max recognized one of them. Marissa, I have a right to see my husband. Where's Emma? You can't keep me from my daughter. Detective Henson stepped into the hallway. Through the open door, Max saw her, Marissa, flanked by two officers, her face a mask of desperation and anger. Her makeup was perfect, her business suit immaculate. She looked like the woman he'd married, the woman he'd trusted. She locked eyes with Max. Max, thank God. Tell them, this is insane. Tell them. Mrs. Carpenter, you need to come with us. One of the officers was already reading her rights. Max, Marissa's voice turned shrill. Don't just stand there. I'm your wife. Tell them they're wrong. Max walked to the doorway. Every eye in the corridor was on him. Teachers, staff, the police. Somewhere down the hall, Emma was safely tucked away in the library, unaware that her mother was being arrested. The phone, Marissa. Max's voice was steady cold. Emma brought your phone by accident. They've seen everything. The color drained from Marissa's face. Max, I can explain. The photos of you and George Shelton. The messages about robbing my clients. The threat against my life. Max stepped closer, his voice dropping to a whisper only she could hear. The messages about abandoning our daughter in Costa Rica. Marissa's mask cracked. For just a moment, Max saw something ugly beneath. Rage, frustration, the face of someone whose con had been exposed. You don't understand, she hissed. You with your stupid little business, your boring life. George offered me everything. He offered you stolen money and a life on the run. And you sold out your own family for it. The officers began leading her away. Marissa struggled, turning back to Max. You'll regret this. I'll fight for custody. Emma is my daughter too. You threatened to abandon her. Max shouted, his composure finally breaking. You chose a criminal over your own child. As Marissa was pushed into the police cruiser outside, Max slumped against the wall. Principal Walsh approached cautiously. Mr. Carpenter, Emma is fine. She doesn't know what's happening. We told her there was a problem with the phone and that you'd take her home. Max nodded, not trusting his voice. Owen burst through the school doors, his detective's shield visible on his belt. He took one look at Max and crossed the distance in 3 strides, pulling his younger brother into a brief, fierce hug. I got here as fast as I could. Max, I'm so sorry. I had no idea. Nobody did. Max's voice was hollow. I didn't. How did I not see this? Because you loved her. Because you trusted her. Owen's face hardened. But that's over now. Now we make sure she never hurts you or Emma again. Agent Chamberlain approached. Mr. Carpenter, we need you to come to the federal building. We need a full statement, and we need access to your files to determine what information was compromised. And George Shelton, we have teams looking for him now. He's smart. He'll know his operation is blown. He'll run. Max straightened, something cold settling in his chest where his heart used to be. He has my wife's messages. He knows Emma and I are here. If he thinks Marissa told you anything useful, he might. We're putting protection on both of you. Detective Henson interjected. You and Emma won't be going home until we have Shelton in custody. Max thought about his home. The house he'd bought with Marissa, filled with photos of their seemingly perfect life. All the lie. I want to file for divorce. Today. Right now. Owen squeezed his shoulder. Let's get through the police station first, brother. Then we'll bury her. Chapter 3. The Price of Truth. The FBI field office in downtown Chicago was a fortress of glass and steel. Max sat in an interrogation room, though Agent Chamberlain insisted on calling it an interview room, going through 5 years of his life file by file, memory by memory, trying to identify what his wife had stolen. Emma was in a break room down the hall with a victim advocate, watching cartoons and eating snacks, blissfully unaware that her mother was 3 floors down being processed for federal crimes. Donovan Financial, Max said, pulling up records on his laptop. Marissa had full access to my home office. I keep physical backups of all access credentials in a safe. She knew the combination. I never thought. He trailed off. He thought a lot of things. That his marriage was solid. That his wife loved him. That the mother of his child wouldn't betray everything they'd built together for money and a criminal's promises. What's the extent of potential damage? Agent Chamberlain asked, taking notes. Worst case, total system compromise for 8 major clients. Financial institutions, healthcare networks, a law firm. If Shelton got inside, Max ran his hands through his hair. Millions in potential theft. Patient data, legal documents, financial records. Jesus, I've spent years building security systems to protect against exactly this kind of attack. And your wife was the back door the whole time, Owen said from where he leaned against the wall. He'd stayed with Max through the entire process, his presence the only thing keeping Max's rage from boiling over. Calvin Stevenson, Max's security manager, appeared in the doorway. Max, I've run full diagnostics on all our client systems. The good news, only Donovan Financial shows signs of actual breach attempts. The bad news, whoever tried got pretty far before our secondary protocols kicked in. How far? Far enough to see account numbers. Not far enough to transfer anything. Your safety protocols worked. Calvin hesitated. Your wife had your home credentials, but she didn't have the secondary authentication codes that change every 6 hours. That saved us. It was a small victory in a day of catastrophic losses, but Max clung to it. At least his professional reputation might survive this nightmare. His phone buzzed with a call from his lawyer, Tom Schroeder, a family law attorney Owen had recommended. Mr. Carpenter, I've drafted emergency divorce papers. Given the circumstances, criminal charges, evidence of infidelity, threats against your life, we can have these filed by end of day. I'm also preparing a motion for emergency full custody of your daughter. What are the chances? Based on what Detective Carpenter sent me, I'd say 95%. No judge is going to grant custody to a woman facing multiple federal charges. But we need to move fast. If Mrs. Carpenter makes bail, she won't. Agent Chamberlain interjected, overhearing. Federal charges, flight risk given the Costa Rica messages, potential danger to a minor. Judge already denied bail. Max felt a grim satisfaction at that. Marissa was sitting in a cell, where she belonged. Mr. Schroeder, file everything. I want her out of our lives. After he hung up, Owen slid a cup of terrible FBI coffee across the table. How are you holding up? I'm sitting in a federal building because my wife was planning to help a criminal steal millions from my clients and then leave the country, possibly after arranging my murder. How do you think I'm holding up? Fair point. Owen sipped his own coffee. For what it's worth, I'm proud of you. Max looked up surprised. For what? For not falling apart. For protecting Emma. For doing the right thing, even though it's destroying you. Owen's expression was serious. A weaker man would have made excuses for her, tried to believe her lies. You saw the truth and acted on it. That takes strength. I don't feel strong. I feel like an idiot who let his wife play him for years. Then you're an idiot who's about to make sure she pays for it. Agent Chamberlain ended a phone call and turned to Max. We found George Shelton. Or rather, we found where he was. He had a private plane scheduled to depart from a small airport in Indiana at 2 p.m. He never showed, so he's in the wind. Maybe. Or maybe he's preparing for one last score before he runs. She pulled up a map on her laptop. You're home, Mr. Carpenter. Shelton knows it's the source of the credentials he needs. He might try to physically access your home office to get what he couldn't steal remotely. Max felt ice in his veins. My house has a standard security system. Nothing sophisticated. If Shelton wanted in. We have a team there now, Detective Henson said, entering the room. Nobody's getting near your property. But Agent Chamberlain is right. We should assume Shelton sees you as unfinished business. Why? He has to know the operation is blown. Why not just disappear? Because men like George Shelton don't disappear quietly, Owen said. They have egos. They're furious when they get caught. And they blame everyone but themselves. He met Max's eyes. He's going to blame you. The implication hung in the air. Max wasn't just a witness to his wife's crimes. He was the reason Shelton's operation had fallen apart. He'd become a target. So what do we do? Max asked. You and Emma go to a safe location, Agent Chamberlain said. Somewhere Shelton doesn't know about. We continue monitoring his known associates, track his movements, and wait for him to make a mistake. I'm not hiding. Max's voice was flat, hard. Max, Owen started. No, I've spent the last 6 hours learning that my wife has been lying to me, betraying me, planning to destroy everything I've built. I've watched her get arrested. I've had to explain to a 5-year-old why mommy isn't coming home. Max stood, his hands flat on the table. I'm not going to hide in fear on top of all that. This man is dangerous, Agent Chamberlain warned. So am I. The words surprised Max as much as they surprised the room. But he meant them. Something had shifted inside him during those hours in the FBI office. The shock was wearing off. The grief was still there, but underneath it was something colder, harder. Rage. Not the hot, explosive kind that made men stupid. The cold, calculating kind that made them dangerous. Owen, Max said quietly, remember what Dad used to say about the guys in the neighborhood who tried to shake him down? Owen's expression changed, understanding dawning. You can't con an honest man, but you can damn sure make a dishonest one pay for trying. Their father had been a locksmith in South Boston, serving a neighborhood where people often tried to cheat him. He'd had a reputation, honest, skilled, and absolutely merciless to anyone who tried to take advantage. He'd taught his sons to be the same. I built my company protecting people from predators like Shelton, Max said. I know how they think. I know how they move. And I know their weaknesses. What are you suggesting? Agent Chamberlain asked warily. I'm suggesting that if Shelton wants to come after me, we let him. But on my terms, in a place of my choosing. That's using yourself as bait, Detective Henson said. That's using myself as a trap. The room fell silent. Then Owen smiled, a cold, dangerous expression Max rarely saw on his brother's face. He's got a point. Shelton thinks he's hunting a civilian, a businessman. He doesn't know Max has spent years thinking like hackers and criminals to protect against them. This is irregular, Agent Chamberlain began. So, is my wife helping a criminal rob my clients? Max shot back. So, is finding out my life has been a lie? I'm done playing by regular rules. He looked at each of them in turn. Shelton is coming for me eventually. We all know it. So instead of waiting for him to pick the time and place, I'm going to give him an opportunity he can't resist. And when he takes it, we'll be ready. Agent Chamberlain studied him for a long moment. What kind of opportunity? Max pulled out his phone and opened his company's internal system. The Donovan financial breach attempt failed, but Shelton doesn't know exactly why. As far as he knows, the credentials might still be good. He just got locked out by secondary protocols. Max's fingers flew across the screen. What if those protocols suddenly went down for emergency maintenance? What if I sent an email to my security team? An email that could easily be intercepted, saying the system would be vulnerable for a 4-hour window while we performed updates. You'd be painting a target on your back, Owens said. The target's already there. I'm just making it visible enough to control. Agent Chamberlain exchanged glances with Detective Henson. If we did this, and I'm not saying we are, it would have to be completely controlled. Full surveillance, tactical teams in position, no risk to civilians. And Emma stays somewhere safe, Max added. She doesn't go near any of this. I can take her to my place, Owen offered. Shelton doesn't know where I live. Full security, and I can call in some off-duty guys to watch the building. Max felt a wave of gratitude for his brother. Thank you. Don't thank me yet. Thank me when Shelton's in cuffs and you and Emma are safe. Agent Chamberlain made a decision. I need to make some calls. And it's still if we do this, it needs approval from my supervisor and full coordination with local PD. She pointed at Max, and you follow every instruction to the letter. No heroics, no improvisation. This isn't a movie. I understand. As she left to make her calls, Detective Henson leaned forward. Mr. Carpenter, can I ask you something? Sure. A few hours ago, you were a happily married businessman. Now you're planning to trap a dangerous criminal. What changed? Max thought about Marissa's face when she'd been led away in cuffs. The anger, the entitlement, the complete lack of remorse. He thought about Emma, asking where Mommy was, confused but trusting that Daddy would make everything okay. I realized that being a good man, an honest man, doesn't mean being weak. My father taught me that. I forgot it for a while, trying to be the perfect husband, the accommodating partner. Max met the detective's eyes. Marissa and Shelton saw that accommodation as weakness. They thought I'd be an easy mark. They were wrong. And if Shelton doesn't take the bait, then I'll find another way. Because one way or another, everyone who tried to destroy my family is going to pay for it. Marissa's paying now. Shelton's turn is coming. Owen clapped him on the shoulder. There's the carpenter brother I know. Through the window, Max could see the city skyline. His city, where he'd built a life from nothing. Where his daughter would grow up. Where his wife had betrayed him. But also where he'd fight back. Marissa had made her choice when she climbed into bed with George Shelton. She'd chosen money and lies over love and family. Now Max would show her what that choice cost. And George Shelton was about to learn that the easiest targets often turned out to be the deadliest traps. Chapter 4. The Bait. 2 days after his world collapsed, Max Carpenter sat in his home office, surrounded by federal agents pretending to be his security staff. The house felt wrong, emptied of Marissa's presence, cold despite the October sun streaming through the windows. Emma's artwork still covered the refrigerator. Family photos still hung on the walls. But the woman in those photos was a stranger. Max had spent 48 hours learning exactly how deep Marissa's betrayal went. The affair with George Shelton had started 8 months ago, shortly after Shelton had hired her at his real estate firm. The recruitment hadn't been coincidental. Shelton had specifically targeted wives of small cybersecurity business owners, looking for someone with access and vulnerability to exploit. Marissa had been his third attempt. The first 2 women had reported him immediately. Marissa, apparently, had seen an opportunity. She was in debt. Agent Chamberlain had explained during one of their briefings. Credit cards, personal loans you didn't know about. She'd been living beyond your income for years, hiding the spending. Shelton offered her a way out and a way up. That revelation had stung almost as much as the affair itself. Max had thought they were building a life together. Marissa had been building a facade, waiting for someone like Shelton to offer her an exit. The divorce papers had been served while Marissa sat in federal detention. Tom Schroeder had been ruthlessly efficient. Petition for divorce on grounds of adultery and criminal misconduct. Motion for emergency, full custody. Motion to freeze all joint assets. The judge had granted everything. Emma was legally Max's until trial, and Marissa couldn't touch a penny of their money. Small victories, Max told himself, but they didn't fill the hole in his chest where trust used to live. Now, he sat at his desk, typing an email that would hopefully lure George Shelton out of hiding. Make it believable. Agent Chamberlain coached from where she stood by the window, watching the street. You're stressed, overworked, trying to save your business. You're not thinking about security, you're thinking about survival. Max typed, Calvin, I know the timing sucks, but we need to run that system update now. Donovan Financial is threatening to pull their contract over the breach attempt. If we lose them, the company goes under. I'm scheduling the maintenance window for Friday, 8 p.m. to midnight. Yes, I know that leaves us vulnerable, but we don't have a choice. All secondary protocols will be offline during the update. Just get it done. He hit send. The email went out on the company system. A system that, thanks to Marissa's stolen credentials, Shelton might still have passive access to. Now we wait, Detective Henson said from the doorway. And if he doesn't bite, then we try something else. But he will. Henson's confidence was reassuring. Shelton's desperate. His operation's blown, his girlfriend's in federal custody, and he's looking at serious prison time. He's going to try one last big score before he runs. Your email just told him exactly when and where. Owen arrived that evening with Emma, who'd spent the past 2 days at his apartment thinking it was a special sleepover with Uncle Owen. She ran to Max, chattering about the movies they'd watched and the pizza they'd eaten. Daddy, when is Mommy coming home? The question Max had been dreading. He knelt down to Emma's level, choosing his words carefully. Tom Schroeder had warned him, whatever he told Emma might come up in custody proceedings. Be truthful, but age-appropriate. Don't poison the well. Let Marissa's actions speak for themselves. Sweetie, Mommy made some bad choices. She's going to be away for a while, helping the police understand those choices. Is she in trouble? Yes, but you're not in trouble, and I'm not in trouble. And I promise, you're safe with me. Emma processed this with the simple logic of a 5-year-old. Did Mommy do something like when I took a cookie before dinner? Something like that, but bigger. Okay. Emma hugged him. I love you, Daddy. I love you too, baby girl. After Emma was in bed, Max sat with Owen in the living room. The federal agents had retreated to give them privacy, But Max knew they were listening through planted microphones. "You doing okay?" Owen asked. "Define okay." "Fair enough." Owen sipped the whiskey he'd poured. "You want to know what I found out about Shelton?" "Tell me." George Shelton, age 38, son of real estate developer Albert Shelton, who built Shelton Properties into a legitimate empire. George took over when his father died 6 years ago and immediately started using it as a front for cybercrime. He's smart, college-educated, but lazy, likes other people to do the hard work while he reaps the benefits. So he needed someone like Marissa. Exactly. She wasn't his first accomplice. Won't be his last if we don't stop him. But here's the interesting part. Shelton has a pattern. When operations go south, he doesn't just run. He ties up loose ends first. Max's blood chilled. "You think he'll come after Marissa?" "Maybe. But more likely, he'll come after you. You're the reason this all fell apart. Your security systems kept him out. Your daughter accidentally exposed him. In Shelton's mind, you're the problem." "Good. Let him come." Owen studied him. "You've changed. 2 days ago, you were in shock. Now you sound like you're looking forward to this." "I'm not looking forward to anything. But if this bastard wants to threaten my family, I'm going to make sure it's the last threat he ever makes. Just remember, the feds need him alive. Don't do anything that puts you in a cell next to your wife." Max hadn't told Owen about the other plan, the backup in case the FBI's trap failed. He'd spent his career thinking like criminals to defend against them. He knew exactly how men like Shelton operated. They had bolt holes, escape routes, contingency plans. So did Max. And his involved more than just waiting for Shelton to walk into a federal trap. Friday arrived. The supposed maintenance window was scheduled for 8 p.m. By 6 p.m., Max's house was a tactical operations center. FBI agents disguised as utility workers had set up positions around the neighborhood. Snipers were on roofs. Undercover cars lined the street. Detective Henson and Agent Chamberlain were in a surveillance van 2 blocks away. Emma was safe at Owen's place, guarded by 3 off-duty cops Owen trusted with his life. Max sat in his office, his laptop open, making the performance believable. He'd actually started the system update. Everything had to look legitimate on Shelton's end. The Donovan financial security protocols really were offline. The bait was set. At 7:30 p.m., his home security system, the basic one Marissa had known about, showed a brief glitch. Someone had hacked it. Someone was testing, probing, making sure the way was clear. Max's heart rate picked up. He was wearing a wire connected directly to Agent Chamberlain. "Contact," he murmured. "Someone just breached my home security system." "Copy that." Chamberlain's voice came through his earpiece. "Stay calm. Follow the protocol." The protocol was simple. Max would stay in his office, working on his laptop, apparently oblivious. When Shelton entered, and they were sure it would be Shelton himself, the man's ego wouldn't allow him to send a proxy for this. Max would stall him with conversation while federal agents surrounded the house. At 8:15 p.m., Max heard it, the soft click of his back door opening. Someone with skills had picked the lock. Footsteps in his kitchen, careful and quiet. "He's inside," Max whispered. "We've got him on thermal. One subject, moving toward your office." "Stay cool, Max." The footsteps came closer. Max kept his eyes on his laptop, pretending to be engrossed in code. The office door, which he'd left slightly ajar, swung open. George Shelton stepped inside, and Max understood immediately why Marissa had fallen for him. The man had presence, expensive suit, confident stride, the kind of looks that came from good genes and better personal trainers. He smiled like they were old friends. "Max Carpenter. Finally, we meet properly." Max turned slowly, feigning surprise. "What? How did you?" "Please." Shelton pulled out a gun. Compact, professional. "Don't insult both of us by pretending you're surprised. You sent that email knowing I'd intercept it. You set this whole thing up. So much for the plan." Shelton was smarter than they'd given him credit for. "If you know it's a trap, why are you here?" Max asked, stalling. "Because I'm not here for your client data. I'm here for you." Shelton closed the door behind him. "You destroyed months of work. You got Marissa arrested. You ruined everything. So before I disappear forever, I'm going to tie up the one loose end that bothers me. The FBI has this house surrounded, Max said, which was true. You're not leaving here. Oh, I think I will. You see, I did my homework too. Your brother Owen, the cop. Your daughter Emma, staying with him. And I have people the FBI doesn't know about, who are very close to that apartment right now. Max's blood turned to ice. If you hurt my daughter, then you'll do exactly what I say, or she'll have an unfortunate accident. See, Max, I'm not stupid enough to come here without leverage. Now, you're going to stand up very slowly, and we're going to walk out of here together. You're going to tell the feds to stand down, that this was a misunderstanding, that I'm actually helping you with something. And then you and I are going to take a drive. Through his earpiece, Max heard Agent Chamberlain's frantic voice. Max, don't comply. We can protect Emma. But Shelton was already moving, grabbing Max by the collar, pressing the gun against his ribs. Let's go. Nice and easy. And remember, your daughter's life depends on your performance. Chapter 5, Trapped. Max let Shelton push him toward the door, his mind racing. The FBI had the house surrounded, but Shelton had made a chess move they hadn't anticipated, threatening Emma. And while Max didn't know if Shelton actually had people near Owen's apartment, he couldn't risk it. But George Shelton had made a critical mistake. He told Max his plan, and Max was already calculating how to turn it against him. Your car, Shelton ordered. Keys. Kitchen counter. They moved through the house, Shelton keeping close, the gun pressed against Max's spine. Through the windows, Max could see the utility workers pretending not to notice them. The surveillance team would be tracking their every move, but they wouldn't move in with Emma potentially at risk. Max grabbed his keys, his phone still in his pocket. Through his earpiece, Agent Chamberlain's voice, Max, we're tracking you. Stall him as long as you can. We're checking on Emma now. In his ear, barely audible, Owen's voice joined the channel. Max, Emma is secure. I've got her. Shelton's bluffing. Relief flooded through Max, but he couldn't show it. Shelton thought he had leverage. As long as he believed that, Max had room to maneuver. They got into Max's car, a BMW X5 that Marissa had insisted on buying. Shelton took the passenger seat, gun aimed at Max's ribs. Drive. Take I-90 West. Max started the car. Where are we going? You'll see. Just drive and keep your mouth shut. They pulled out of the driveway. Max spotted at least 3 unmarked cars preparing to follow at a distance. Good. Let Shelton think he was in control. You know, this is stupid, Max said conversationally. You're making it worse for yourself. Federal agents are following us right now. You're not going to escape. I've escaped worse. I have a plane waiting, new identity, money stashed offshore. By tomorrow morning, I'll be on a beach in Southeast Asia while you're in a morgue and the feds are still figuring out what happened. And Marissa? Shelton laughed, a harsh sound. What about her? She was a means to an end. Useful while she lasted. But she got caught, which means she's useless now. I don't carry dead weight. You told her you loved her. The messages. I tell everyone I love them if it gets me what I want. Surely you, of all people, understand that. Your wife certainly did. Shelton's smile was cruel. Did you ever wonder what she said about you? All those nights we spent together, laughing about how easy you were to fool? The devoted husband, so trusting, so blind to what was happening in his own house. Max's hands tightened on the steering wheel. Don't take the bait, he told himself. Shelton wants you angry, wants you making mistakes. She said you were boring, Shelton continued. A good provider, sure, but no excitement. No edge. Just a security nerd who talked about firewalls and encryption. She was dying of boredom until I came along. Is that what you tell yourself? Max kept his voice level. That you save her from boredom? She was using you as much as you were using her. You both just found each other. 2 users who thought they were smarter than everyone else. Shelton's smile faded. Careful, Max. You're not in a position to insult me. I'm just stating facts. You prey on vulnerable people. You found a woman in debt, probably with self-esteem issues, and you manipulated her. That's not being smart. That's being a parasite, says the man with a gun to his ribs. Says the man whose daughter is safe and whose brother is a cop who knows exactly where we are. Max took a calculated risk. You think you're the first criminal I've dealt with? I've spent years studying people like you. I know how you think, and I know you're not nearly as smart as you believe you are. Shelton's face flushed. Good. Angry people made mistakes. Take the next exit, Shelton snapped. Airport. They were heading to one of the small private airports outside Chicago. Exactly what Agent Chamberlain had predicted. Max took the exit, noting the unmarked cars maintaining distance behind them. You're not getting on a plane, Max said. Even if you have one waiting, the FBI will have it grounded before you reach the tarmac. We'll see. They pulled into the small airport. It was after 9 p.m., mostly deserted. Shelton directed Max to a private hangar at the far end of the field. A small jet sat on the tarmac, engines already running. Out, Shelton ordered. And remember, any heroics, and you die here. They climbed out of the car. Max could feel eyes on them from the darkness, federal agents, moving into position. But Shelton was holding all the cards as long as he had that gun. Or so he thought. Mr. Shelton, a man in a pilot's uniform emerged from the hangar. We need to leave now. The tower just got a call about a federal investigation. I know. Shelton kept the gun on Max while addressing the pilot. Slight change of plans. We're taking a passenger. The pilot's eyes widened. Sir, that wasn't part of... I don't care what the plan was. He's coming with us. Once we're airborne, I'll deal with him and we can dump him somewhere over the ocean. Max had to admit it was a good plan. Get airborne before the FBI could stop them, kill Max in transit, dispose of the body, disappear into international waters. Simple and effective, if it had any chance of working. George Shelton. Agent Chamberlain's voice boomed through a megaphone. FBI, drop your weapon. You're surrounded. Floodlights blazed to life. Tactical teams emerged from the shadows, assault rifles trained on them. The pilot immediately raised his hands and dropped to the ground. Shelton grabbed Max, using him as a shield, gun pressed to his temple. Back off. I swear I'll kill him. Don't do this, Agent Chamberlain called out. There's no way out. Drop the gun and you walk away alive. I'll walk away to prison. No thanks. Shelton was sweating now, desperate. Tell them to back off, Max. Tell them. Max met Agent Chamberlain's eyes across the tarmac. He gave the slightest nod, a signal they'd arranged. If things went wrong, Max would trust the professionals to handle it. What happened next occurred in seconds. Owen, who'd been circling in from the blind side, fired a taser. Shelton's body seized, the gun falling from his hand. Max dropped and rolled away as tactical agents swarmed in, securing Shelton within moments. It was over. Max lay on the cold tarmac, his heart pounding, as Owen pulled him to his feet. You okay? Yeah, I'm okay. Max looked at Shelton, being cuffed and read his rights, the smug confidence gone, replaced with the expression of a man realizing he'd lost everything. Good, Owen said, because Emma's been asking when you're coming back. And I'm tired of watching Frozen for the 14th time. Max almost laughed. Almost. The adrenaline was fading, leaving him shaky and exhausted. Agent Chamberlain approached. Mr. Carpenter, you did well. That was incredibly risky, but you kept him talking long enough for us to get into position. Is Emma really safe? Been safe the whole time. Shelton was bluffing about having people near her. We checked immediately. It was an empty threat. Max watched as Shelton was loaded into a federal transport vehicle. The man looked smaller now, diminished. Just another criminal who'd thought he was smarter than the system. What happens now? Max asked. Now, Shelton joins your wife in federal detention. They'll both face trial, and you get to go home to your daughter. Chamberlain smiled slightly, though I'd recommend getting new locks. Later that night, Max sat in Owen's apartment with Emma curled up asleep on his lap. The TV played Frozen at low volume. She'd want it on even while sleeping. You know, Owen said quietly, most people in your situation would have fallen apart. But you kept your head. You stayed smart. Dad would be proud. Dad would have told me I was an idiot for not seeing Marissa's lies sooner. Maybe, but he also would have respected how you handled it once you knew. Owen leaned back. So what now? Shelton's caught. Marissa's facing years in prison. You've got full custody. The immediate threats are over. Now comes the hard part, Max said, looking down at his sleeping daughter. Rebuilding. Figuring out how to raise Emma through this. Dealing with my client's trust issues. Starting over. You'll manage. You always do. Max hoped his brother was right. But sitting there, holding his daughter, he couldn't shake the feeling that the worst wasn't over. Because Marissa was still out there. And she was the kind of person who never accepted defeat gracefully. Chapter 6. Complications. The call came 3 days later, just as Max was beginning to believe the nightmare might actually be ending. Tom Schroeder, his lawyer, sounded both frustrated and apologetic. Max, we have a problem with the divorce proceedings. Max was in his office, his real office at Carpenter Security Solutions, trying to salvage client relationships. Calvin had been helping, reaching out to reassure their accounts that the breach attempt had been contained, that their systems were secure. Most clients were understanding. A few were not. What kind of problem? Marissa's fighting the divorce. And she's hired a very good attorney, somehow. How? She's in federal detention. Her assets are frozen. That's what I'm trying to figure out. But her lawyer, Gloria Vaughn, is expensive. Top-tier criminal defense. Someone's paying her bills. Tom paused, and Vaughn has filed a counter-petition. Marissa wants joint custody of Emma. Max's blood ran cold. She can't be serious. She's facing federal charges. She planned to abandon Emma in another country. Vaughn is arguing that those charges are pending, not proven. That Marissa is innocent until proven guilty. And that the messages about Costa Rica were taken out of context. That Marissa never intended to actually leave Emma. That she was just playing along with Shelton to buy time to report him to authorities. That's absurd. That's lawyering. Vaughn is good. She's already filed motions to suppress some of the evidence from Marissa's phone, arguing illegal search and seizure. A 5-year-old brought the phone to school. The teacher saw illegal activity and called police. That's not a legal search. We know that. But Vaughn is going to make the judge work for every ruling. She's going to drag this out, make it expensive, and hope you'll settle for something less than full custody just to make it end. Max rubbed his temples. How? Is Marissa paying for this? That's the other problem. Remember George Shelton's father, Albert Shelton, who built the original real estate empire? Turns out he has a younger brother, Philip Welch. The name hit Max like a punch. Mrs. Welch? Emma's teacher, her husband. And apparently, he's been George Shelton's silent partner in some of the legitimate business operations. When George took over the company, Philip stayed on as a consultant. He's wealthy, connected, and very angry about his nephew's arrest. Wait, Max's mind raced. Mrs. Welch was Emma's teacher. She's the one who saw the photos on Marissa's phone and called police. Are you telling me? I'm telling you that Philip Welch is claiming his wife was coerced by police into reporting what she saw. That there was no imminent danger, no probable cause. He's trying to create grounds for suppression. But Mrs. Welch called the police before anyone knew George Shelton was involved. She just saw inappropriate content on a phone a child had brought to school. Again, we know that. But Welch has resources and connections. He's trying to muddy the waters. And he's paying for Marissa's defense as a way to get back at you, the man who helped bring down his nephew. Max stood pacing his office. This is insane. We have evidence. We have Marissa's messages, the photos, Shelton's confession. How can any of this possibly work? Because the legal system isn't about truth. It's about what you can prove and how well you can argue. Vaughn is one of the best. She's already gotten Marissa's bail reduced. There's a hearing in 2 days. Bail? Tom, she's a flight risk. She was planning to leave the country. Vaughn argued that those were Shelton's plans, not Marissa's. That Marissa was a victim of coercive control, manipulated by an older, more powerful man. She painted Marissa as someone who made mistakes but isn't a danger. She helped a criminal rob my clients. Can you prove she knowingly provided confidential information for illegal purposes? Or could a clever lawyer argue she was sharing details about your work life with her boyfriend, not realizing what he'd do with it? Max wanted to throw something. You're telling me she might get away with this. I'm telling you she's going to try. And with Philip Welch's money behind her, she has a real shot at shared custody at least. Maybe even primary custody if Vaughn can sell the sympathetic victim narrative. After Tom hung up, Max sat in his office, staring at the city skyline. Everything he'd been through, the shock of discovery, the confrontation with Shelton, the federal investigation, all of it might not matter if Marissa's lawyer was good enough. His phone rang. Agent Chamberlain. Mr. Carpenter, I heard about the custody proceedings. I'm sorry. You heard that Philip Welch is funding Marissa's defense? I did. And I want you to know, we're building an airtight case against both Shelton and your wife. But federal cases take time. The trial might not happen for months. Which means Marissa might be out on bail, fighting for custody for months before she's convicted. I'm afraid so. But Max, the evidence is solid. She will be convicted eventually. Eventually doesn't help me if she gets partial custody in the meantime. Do you know what it would do to Emma to have her mother back in her life, only to lose her again when the conviction comes through? Chamberlain was silent for a moment. I wish I had better answers for you. After she hung up, Max made a decision. The legal system was slow, vulnerable to manipulation by expensive lawyers. But Max hadn't built a successful security company by waiting for systems to work in his favor. He built solutions. If Philip Welch was funding Marissa's defense, Max needed to understand why. Was it just about revenge for George Shelton's arrest? Or was there something deeper? He called Calvin into his office. I need you to do something for me. Quietly. Name it. I need everything you can find on Philip Welch. Bank records, business dealings, connections. Everything. Calvin raised an eyebrow. That's borderline illegal. Max, possibly over the border. I know, and I'm not asking you to do anything that makes you uncomfortable. But I need to know why a man would spend hundreds of thousands of dollars defending his nephew's accomplice. There has to be more to this. You think he's protecting something. I think men like Philip Welch don't do anything without a reason. And I think if we find that reason, we find leverage. Calvin considered this. If I do this, it stays between us. I don't want to end up in federal prison. Agreed. Give me 48 hours. That evening, Max picked up Emma from the temporary daycare Owen had helped him arrange. She ran to him like always, full of stories about her day. But Max could see the strain around her eyes, the way she clung a little tighter. Daddy, can I ask you something? Always, baby girl. Is Mommy coming back? Max pulled over, unable to drive while having this conversation. He turned to face his daughter, choosing his words carefully. Do you want her to come back? Emma thought about it with the seriousness only children can muster. I miss her, but she made you sad. And Uncle Owen said she made bad choices. That's true. She did. Will she stop making bad choices? I don't know, sweetie. I hope so. But even if she does, sometimes when people make really bad choices, there are consequences. That means they have to face the results of what they did. Like when I have to go to timeout. Like that, but bigger. Emma nodded slowly. Okay, but Daddy, yeah. Even if Mommy made bad choices, you'll still be here, right? You won't go away. Max pulled her into a hug, his heart breaking. I will never, ever leave you. I promise. No matter what happens with Mommy, you and me, we're forever. Okay. That night, after Emma was asleep, Max sat in his living room with a glass of whiskey he wasn't drinking. Owen had let himself in with the spare key. Heard about the custody thing. That's rough. Philip Welch is paying for Marissa's defense. Did you know his wife was Emma's teacher? Yeah, I heard. That's a hell of a coincidence. Owen sat down. What are you thinking? I'm thinking coincidences are usually anything, but Mrs. Welch calls the police the moment she sees something suspicious on a phone. Her husband is George Shelton's uncle and business partner. Now he's spending a fortune to defend Marissa. You think the Welches are involved somehow? I think there's a bigger picture we're missing. And I think Philip Welch is trying to control the narrative before we figure it out. Owen studied his brother. Max, be careful. You're talking about going after a wealthy, connected man. That's different from catching your wife and her boyfriend. Is it? Because from where I'm sitting, they're all part of the same problem. Marissa and Shelton didn't operate in a vacuum. Someone helped them. Someone taught Shelton how to run criminal operations through a legitimate business. Someone who knew how to stay clean while others got their hands dirty. You think that's Philip Welch? I think he's worth investigating. And I think if I can prove he's involved, Marissa loses her funding, her lawyer, and any chance at custody. Owen was quiet for a long moment. I can't help you with this. Not officially. If you're going after Welch, you're on your own from a legal standpoint. I understand. But Owen pulled out a folder. Hypothetically, if someone were investigating Philip Welch, they might be interested in knowing that his wife, Mrs. Welch, took a sudden leave of absence from Riverside Elementary 3 days ago. Medical leave, they said. But no one at the school has seen her since the day Emma brought the phone in. Max took the folder, opened it. Inside were photos of Philip and Mrs. Welch, Agnes Welch, according to the caption, at various social events. But one photo stood out. The Welches at a charity gala, standing next to George Shelton and Marissa. The photo was dated 3 months before Marissa and Shelton claimed to have started their affair. They knew each other, Max breathed. Before the affair started, they all knew each other. Looks that way. Which means this whole thing might have been planned from the beginning. Shelton didn't randomly target Marissa. The Welches helped him select her. Owen met his brother's eyes. Max, if that's true, if they deliberately set up your wife to betray you, then this goes way deeper than a simple affair and robbery scheme. Then what is it? That's what you need to find out. Because if the Welches are involved, Agnes Welch calling the police might not have been the accident it seemed. Maybe she was supposed to find that phone. Maybe this whole thing was supposed to blow up exactly the way it did. But why? That's the question. And until you answer it, you won't understand what you're really up against. Max looked at the photo again. 4 people smiling at charity gala, all of them hiding secrets. Marissa and Shelton planning their crimes. And the Welches planning what? Whatever it was, Max was going to find out. Because now he understood. Catching Marissa and Shelton had only been the first move. The real game was just beginning. And this time, Max wasn't playing defense. Chapter 7. The Investigation. Calvin Stevenson was good at his job, which is why Max had hired him 5 years ago to manage security operations at Carpenter Security Solutions. But over the next 3 days, Max discovered Calvin was better than good. He was exceptional. Found something, Calvin said, appearing in Max's office with a laptop and a thumb drive. And you're not going to like it. Max closed his office door. Tell me. Calvin pulled up financial records on his laptop. Philip Welch's legitimate businesses are clean. Real estate consulting, investment advisory, the usual stuff for a wealthy guy. But he's got offshore accounts that are less clean. I track payment patterns through 3 shell companies. And guess where the money goes? Tell me it's not what I think. It's exactly what you think. Welch was funding George Shelton's cyber operations. Not directly. He's too smart for that. But through a series of investment vehicles, he was providing capital for Shelton's technology consulting firm, which was really just a front for hacking operations. Max felt sick. So Philip Welch was a partner, not just an uncle helping out family. More than that, Calvin pulled up more documents. Look at the timeline. Welch started investing in Shelton's operations 4 years ago, right after his brother Albert died, and George took over the family business. But here's the interesting part. Welch's investment returns were guaranteed. Win or lose, legitimate or not, Welch got his money back plus 20%. That's not an investment. That's money laundering. Bingo. Welch was using Shelton's operation to wash money from somewhere. I'm still trying to figure out the source, but I think it's connected to his wife's family. Max blinked. Agnes Welch? Emma's teacher. Calvin pulled up a genealogy chart. Agnes Welch, née Agnes Cruz. Her father was Eduardo Cruz, who ran construction companies in Chicago for 30 years. Very successful, very connected. Also very much involved with organized crime, though it was never proven. When Eduardo died 10 years ago, Agnes inherited everything. You're telling me Emma's kindergarten teacher comes from a crime family? Not quite. The Cruz family was borderline, legitimate businesses with questionable associations. But yes, Agnes grew up in that world. And when she married Philip Welch, their combined resources created opportunities. Calvin looked up. Here's where it gets interesting. Remember how George Shelton was targeting wives of cybersecurity professionals? Marissa wasn't the first. Agent Chamberlain mentioned that. 2 other women reported him immediately. Right. But what if those weren't failed attempts? What if they were successful reconnaissance? Max felt the pieces clicking together. He was gathering information about multiple security firms, seeing which ones were vulnerable. Exactly. And guess who was on that list? Calvin turned the laptop around. On the screen was a list of names. 5 security companies, 5 executives, 5 wives who'd been approached by George Shelton or his associates. Max's company was third on the list. This was never just about robbing my clients, Max said slowly. This was about infiltrating multiple security firms, learning their systems, and then launching a coordinated attack that would compromise half the cybersecurity infrastructure in Chicago, Calvin finished. With Philip Welch's money and connections backing it, and Agnes Welch's family connections providing, let's call it additional resources. But we caught them. Marissa's phone exposed everything. Calvin's expression turned grim. Did it? Or did someone want it exposed at exactly this moment? The implication hung in the air. Max walked to his window, looking out at the Chicago skyline as the pieces rearranged themselves into a new, terrifying picture. Agnes Welch called the police the moment she saw something suspicious on Marissa's phone. Max said, "I thought she was being a responsible teacher. But what if she was making sure the operation got burned exactly when and how she wanted?" Which raises the question, why burn an operation you spent millions setting up? Max turned back. Because the operation was never the point. It was a distraction. From what? That's what we need to find out. Max called Owen that evening, laying out everything Calvin had discovered. His brother listened in silence, and Max could practically hear him putting on his detective hat. "This is big," Owen finally said. "If you're right about the Welches orchestrating this whole thing, we're talking about something way beyond a simple cyber theft ring. Can you help?" "Officially? No. This is federal jurisdiction, and I'm homicide." "But," Owen paused. "Off the record, I might know someone who knows someone. Let me make some calls." 2 hours later, Max's doorbell rang. He opened it to find a woman in her 50s, dressed in business casual, with sharp eyes that missed nothing. "Mr. Carpenter, I'm Detective Christy Johns, Financial Crimes Division." She showed her badge. "Your brother suggested we talk." Max let her in. Johns settled into his living room like she owned the place, pulling out a notebook. "Owen tells me you've stumbled onto something involving Philip and Agnes Welch. I need to know everything." Max walked her through it. The affair, the arrest, the custody battle, Philip Welch funding Marissa's defense, Calvin's discoveries about the financial connections. When he finished, Johns was smiling. "Mr. Carpenter, do you know what I've been investigating for the past 18 months? "No idea. A money laundering network operating through Chicago's real estate and technology sectors. Specifically, one connected to the old Cruz family operations. I've been trying to find the center of the web, the person coordinating everything." Johns leaned forward. "I think you just found them for me. The Welches. Philip provides the financial infrastructure and legitimate cover. Agnes provides the criminal connections and, let's call enforcement. George Shelton was their attack dog, running the cyber operations that generated the money they needed to wash through legitimate channels. But we caught Shelton. Why would the Welches burn their own operation? Because Shelton got greedy. Or sloppy. Or both." Johns pulled out her phone, scrolling through files. "I've been tracking unusual patterns in the cases Shelton was involved in. Every time he got close to getting caught, someone would tip off the authorities. Not enough to bust him completely, but enough to make him shut down an operation and move on. Someone was protecting him, but also controlling him. Exactly. As long as Shelton played by their rules, the Welches kept him safe. But the Marissa situation was different. Shelton fell for her, really fell, not just the usual manipulation. He started making plans that didn't include the Welches. Costa Rica, 20 million, disappearing together. That wasn't part of the program. Max understood. So Agnes Welch made sure the phone ended up at school. She knew what was on it. She knew it would blow up the whole operation, burning Shelton before he could break free. And as a bonus, it burns your wife too, a woman who maybe knew too much about the larger operation. But now Philip Welch is paying for Marissa's defense. What? John smiled coldly. Because she knows things, and he needs to make sure she never testifies. As long as he's paying her legal bills, her lawyer has a conflict of interest. Gloria Vaughn isn't just defending Marissa, she's managing her. Making sure Marissa doesn't say anything that could implicate the Welches. Max felt his anger rising again. So Marissa betrayed me, nearly destroyed my company, and now she might get away with it because the Welches need her silent? Not if we move first. John stood. Mr. Carpenter, I need you to do something risky. Something that might blow up in your face if it goes wrong. What? I need you to talk to your wife. In detention. And I need you to convince her to flip on the Welches. Why would she listen to me? She chose George Shelton. She chose money and lies over our family. Because right now, she's looking at serious federal time. And because despite everything, you're the only person in her life who never used her. John's expression softened slightly. Your wife made terrible choices, but she was also being manipulated by people who are very good at manipulation. If you can make her see that, if you can make her understand that the Welches are using her lawyer to control her, she might turn. And if she doesn't, then we build our case the hard way. But it'll take years, and in the meantime, the Welches stay free and Marissa fights you for custody. John's met his eyes. This is about more than revenge, Mr. Carpenter. This is about protecting your daughter from people who orchestrated this entire nightmare. Max thought about Emma, safe asleep upstairs. Thought about the life he'd tried to build, the family he'd thought he had. All of it weaponized against him by people he'd never even met. Set up the meeting, he said. I'll talk to Marissa. The federal detention center was exactly as grim as Max expected. He sat in a visitation room, separated from Marissa by reinforced glass, a phone on each side for communication. When she was led in wearing an orange jumpsuit, Max barely recognized her. The elegant, put-together real estate agent was gone. In her place was a woman who looked exhausted, frightened, and alone. Marissa picked up the phone. Max! Marissa! They stared at each other for a long moment. Finally, Marissa spoke. I know you hate me. You have every right to. What I did, her voice cracked. I destroyed everything. I destroyed us. I destroyed our family. Yes, you did. If I could take it back. But you can't. And honestly, Marissa, I'm not here for apologies. I'm here because you're in trouble. Real trouble. And I'm probably the only person who can help you. Marissa's eyes widened. Help me? Why would you help me? Because despite everything, you're still Emma's mother. And because the people who set this whole thing in motion are worse than you are. What do you mean? Max leaned forward. The Welches, Marissa, Philip and Agnes Welch. Did you know they're the ones paying for your lawyer? Philip said it was out of loyalty to George. He's George's uncle. Philip Welch was George's silent partner. He funded Shelton's entire operation. And Agnes? She's from the Cruz crime family. Together, they've been running a money laundering network through cybercrime operations. Marissa's face went pale. No, that's not. George said it was just about security vulnerabilities, about making money from what? From robbing my clients? From destroying companies I worked years to protect. Max's voice hardened. Marissa, you were a pawn. George was a pawn. And now that you're both caught, the Welches are making sure neither of you can expose them. The lawyer, Gloria Vaughn, she's good. She says she can get me reduced charges. She's not your lawyer. She's Philip Welch's lawyer. Everything you tell her goes straight back to him. She's not defending you. She's managing you. Keeping you quiet. Marissa shook her head, tears streaming down her face. No, I trusted. George said we'd be together. He said, George Shelton is in a cell 2 floors down from you, probably making the same excuses to himself. But Marissa, listen to me. The Welches used both of you. And when you weren't useful anymore, they burned you. Agnes Welch made sure that phone ended up at school. She knew what was on it. She knew it would destroy everything. Agnes. Marissa looked genuinely shocked. But she was always so nice. She loved Emma. Did she? Or did she see an opportunity? A child she could use to get a phone into the right hands at the right time. Max softened his voice slightly. Marissa, I know you made terrible choices, but you weren't making them in a vacuum. The Welches manipulated George. George manipulated you. And now they're all trying to make sure you take the fall alone. What do you want from me? Testify. Tell the FBI everything you know about the Welches involvement. Help take them down. They'll kill me. Marissa's voice was barely a whisper. The Cruz family doesn't forgive betrayal. If I testify against them, the FBI will protect you. Witness protection, new identity, the works. You'll be safe. And Emma, there it was. The question Max had known was coming. If you testify, if you help put the Welches away, I'll push for reduced charges. Maybe even a deal where you serve minimal time. And when you get out, Max took a deep breath. We can discuss supervised visitation. Not custody, never full custody, but a chance to be in Emma's life. To try to repair some of what you broke. You do that? After everything? Not for you. For Emma. Because every child deserves a mother if that mother is willing to change, to be better, to own what she's done. Max leaned back. But only if you help end this. Only if you make sure the people who orchestrated this nightmare face justice. Marissa was crying openly now. I was so stupid. I thought George loved me. I thought we'd have this amazing life. I didn't see that he was using you, that they were all using you. I know. Max stood. You have 24 hours to decide. After that, my offer expires and you're on your own with a lawyer who works for your enemies. He started to leave, then turned back. One more thing. Emma asked about you yesterday. She asked if you'd ever stop making bad choices. Max met her eyes. Now's your chance to prove you can. He left without waiting for a response. Chapter 8. The Trap Springs. 23 hours later, Tom Schroeder called with news. Marissa had fired Gloria Vaughn and retained a new lawyer through the Federal Public Defender's Office. She was ready to cooperate. The meeting took place in a secure conference room at the FBI field office. Present were Max, Agent Chamberlain, Detective Johns, Marissa in handcuffs, her new lawyer, and 2 assistant U.S. attorneys who'd been brought in to handle the case against the Welches. Mrs. Carpenter, the senior AUSA, began, "We understand you're prepared to provide testimony regarding Philip and Agnes Welch's involvement in the cybercrimes you and George Shelton committed." Marissa nodded, her voice shaky. "I didn't know at first. George told me it was just about making money, about being smarter than the security systems. But as things went on, I realized there were other people involved. People who gave George his orders. Tell us about your first contact with the Welches." "It was at a charity gala about 4 months before George and I, before the affair started. Agnes Welch was there with her husband. She made a point of talking to me, asking about my work, my family. She seemed so interested in Max's company, in what he did. I thought she was just being friendly. But she wasn't. No. I found out later that Agnes had specifically arranged for George to meet me that night. She'd done research on several security firms, looking for vulnerabilities. I was one of them. Married, in debt, ambitious. The perfect target. Max listened, his jaw tight. Hearing how calculated it all was made him angry all over again. But he forced himself to stay quiet. This was Marissa's confession, not his. "George started pursuing me after that," Marissa continued. "I resisted at first, but he was persistent, charming. He knew exactly what to say, what I wanted to hear. And he knew about my debts Max didn't know about. He offered to help, in exchange for information about your husband's company. Yes. At first, it seemed harmless. Just talking about Max's work, what companies he was consulting for, what security systems he was building. But gradually, George asked for more specific information. Access codes, vulnerabilities. And by then, I was in too deep to back out. Did you know the Welches were involved at this stage? Not really. George mentioned his uncle sometimes, said he was an investor in the business. But I didn't realize how much control Philip had until later." Marissa took a shaky breath. "About 2 months into the affair, George brought me to meet with Philip. It was at a private office downtown. Philip laid everything out, how they were building a network of cyber operations, how my information was helping them access major financial institutions, how much money they'd already made. And what was your reaction? I was terrified. I wanted out. But Philip said it was too late. He had recordings of conversations between George and me, evidence of me providing confidential information. He said if I backed out, he'd send everything to the police and make sure Max knew I'd betrayed him. So he blackmailed you into continuing." "Yes. And he made it clear that if I caused problems, the Cruz family connections, Agnes's family, would handle it. He didn't say it directly, But the implication was clear. If I betrayed them, I wouldn't just go to prison. I'd disappear. Detective Johns leaned forward. Tell us about Agnes Welch's role. Agnes was the enforcer. She managed the people who were recruited like me. Other wives, girlfriends, employees who were compromised. She checked in regularly, making sure we were keeping quiet, following orders. She was always so pleasant about it, so friendly, but there was something cold underneath. You knew crossing her would be a mistake. And she taught your daughter's kindergarten class. Marissa's face crumpled. I didn't want Emma in her class. When I found out Agnes would be her teacher, I tried to get Emma transferred. But Agnes wouldn't allow it. She said it was better this way. She could keep an eye on Emma, make sure I remembered what I had to lose if I betrayed them. Max felt sick. His daughter had been in the care of a woman who was using her as leverage against her mother, who was using her position as a teacher to control criminal operations. Tell us about the phone, Agent Chamberlain said. That morning, the morning Emma took my phone to school, I'd been careless. Usually, I deleted the messages with George immediately. But that morning I was rushing. I'd had a late-night argument with George about the Costa Rica plan. He wanted me to leave Emma behind. I refused. We went back and forth for hours in messages, and I forgot to delete them. And then Emma wanted to bring her phone to school. I panicked. I told her to take Max's phone instead. But then, Marissa looked at Max. Emma must have mixed them up. Or maybe I did in my rush. Either way, my phone ended up in her backpack, and Agnes Welch saw the contents. I didn't realize it at first. But looking back, Agnes made sure Emma scrolled through the photos during show and tell. She guided Emma's hands on the phone, helped her look for the butterfly pictures. Agnes knew exactly what was on that phone. She'd been monitoring me for months. She knew I'd been fighting with George, knew I was becoming a liability. So she burned the operation. She burned George and me. The Welches stayed clean. We took the fall. Marissa looked around the room. And if Max hadn't figured it out, if you hadn't found the connections, they'd have gotten away with it. George and I would be in prison, and they'd start over with a new operation. The AUSAs exchanged glances. One of them spoke. Mrs. Carpenter, are you willing to wear a wire and help us gather additional evidence against the Welches? Marissa paled. Wear a wire? You want me to? We need recordings of Philip Welch discussing his involvement. We need him to admit to the blackmail, the coordination, the money laundering. Your testimony is valuable, but it's not enough by itself. He'll know. Philip is smart. He'll suspect. Not if you play it right, Detective Johns said. You call him. You're desperate. Your new lawyer is pushing you to flip on him. You need money for a better defense. You need him to help you like he helped George. And when he refuses, you get angry. You threaten to tell everything. You push his buttons. John smiled grimly. Men like Philip Welch have egos. Push hard enough, and they'll tell you exactly what you want to hear just to prove how smart they are. Marissa looked at Max. If I do this, will you keep your promise? About Emma, Max wanted to say no, wanted to punish her for everything she'd done. But he thought about Emma, who'd already lost so much, who deserved a chance to have a mother if that mother was willing to change. Yes, he said quietly. If you do this, I'll keep my promise. The wire was placed 2 days later in a carefully orchestrated sting. Marissa, released on a heavily monitored bail for exactly this purpose, called Philip Welch from a controlled location. The FBI recorded everything. Max listened from another room as Marissa played her part perfectly, desperate, angry, manipulative. Exactly the kind of person Philip Welch would underestimate. Philip, I need your help. My new lawyer is pushing me to testify. They're offering deals, saying I can get reduced charges if I cooperate. Marissa, you need to calm down. Gloria was handling your case perfectly until you fired her. Gloria was handling me, not my case. I know what she was doing. Philip, Max told me everything about how you and Agnes set this whole thing up. A pause. Max doesn't know anything. Doesn't he? He knows about your offshore accounts. He knows about Agnes's family connections. He knows about the other wives you recruited. Should I keep going? Another pause, longer this time. When Philip spoke again, his voice was colder. You're making a mistake. If you think testifying against me will help you. I don't want to testify. I want you to help me like you promised George you'd help him. Or was that a lie too? George got greedy. He broke the rules. You're making the same mistake you did. So what? You'll burn me too? Have Agnes arrange another convenient accident. Marissa's voice rose. I know what happened to the other recruits who wanted out. Philip. I know about the woman in St. Louis who committed suicide after she threatened to talk. I know about the couple in Detroit whose house conveniently burned down. You're being paranoid. Am I? Because from where I'm sitting, you used me. You used George. And now you're using my lawyer to keep me quiet. Well, I'm done being used. Either you help me for real, or I tell the FBI everything. Everything? You don't know everything. I know enough. I know about the Cruz family money. I know about the construction company fronts. I know about the city contracts you bribed officials to secure. I know about the laundering network running through George's consulting firm. Marissa was hitting every point the FBI had prepped her on. Should I keep going? You're bluffing. Try me. I've got nothing left to lose. Philip, my marriage is over. My daughter won't talk to me. I'm facing years in prison. The only thing I can control now is who goes down with me. If you testify, Philip's voice dropped to a dangerous quiet. You won't survive the trial. Agnes has connections everywhere. Prison guards, inmates, lawyers. You'll never make it to the witness stand. There it is. The threat. That's all I needed to hear. Marissa's voice turned triumphant. You just admitted everything, Philip. The FBI is listening to this conversation. You're done. The line went dead. In the monitoring room, Agent Chamberlain smiled. Got him. Direct threat of witness tampering, admission of knowledge of the operation, reference to the Cruz family connections. That's enough for warrants. Within 2 hours, federal agents arrested Philip Welch at his office. Agnes Welch was arrested at home. Both were denied bail, flight risk, and danger to witnesses. Max watched the news coverage that evening with Owen. The story was everywhere. Major money laundering network exposed. Teacher and husband arrested in cybercrime conspiracy. FBI breaks up Chicago crime ring. How does it feel? Owen asked. Like it's finally over. Almost over. Still got trials to get through. But yeah, the worst is done. Max thought about Marissa, now in witness protection preparing to testify. About George Shelton, who'd been offered a deal to testify against the Welches and taken it. About the Welches themselves, facing charges that would put them away for decades. Emma asked about Marissa again today. Max said quietly, What did you tell her? That mommy made bad choices, but she's trying to make better ones now. That someday, if mommy proves she's changed, they might be able to see each other again. Supervised visits only, after she serves whatever reduced sentence she gets. Think Marissa will follow through? I don't know, but at least Emma will have the chance to find out. That's more than I wanted to give her yesterday. You're a better man than I would be. I'm not doing it for Marissa. I'm doing it for Emma. Every kid deserves a chance to have 2 parents, if those parents can be what the kid needs. Owen raised his glass to being the bigger person, even when it sucks. Max clinked his glass against his brother's, to being the bigger person. But later that night, after Owen left, Max sat alone in his living room and admitted the truth to himself. He didn't feel noble. He didn't feel like the bigger person. He felt angry and betrayed and exhausted. But he also felt something else, determination. The determination to build a better life for Emma out of the ruins of the old one. The determination to protect her from ever being used like Marissa had been used, like he'd been used. The Welches were under arrest. Marissa was cooperating. George Shelton was done. But Max's real work was just beginning, teaching Emma that people could be flawed and broken and still deserve a chance at redemption. Teaching her that being smart meant protecting yourself without becoming hard. Teaching her that trust was a gift, not a guarantee. His phone buzzed. A text from Agent Chamberlain. Preliminary hearing for the Welches is next month. We'll need you to testify. But Max, you did good. Really good. You got justice for yourself and took down people who've hurt a lot of families. Be proud of that. Max looked at the photo of Emma on the mantle, his daughter, smiling, innocent, safe. That's what mattered. Not revenge, not being right, not even justice. Just keeping her safe and teaching her to be better than all of this. He could do that. He would do that. Chapter 9, New Foundations. 3 months later, the trials were over. Philip and Agnes Welch were convicted on multiple counts of money laundering, racketeering, and conspiracy. Both received 25-year sentences. George Shelton, in exchange for his testimony, got 15 years. Marissa, having provided crucial evidence and cooperated fully, received a surprisingly lenient sentence, 5 years with possibility of parole in 3. It wasn't what Max would have chosen, but he understood the calculation. The FBI needed to send a message. Cooperation would be rewarded. And Marissa's testimony had been instrumental in dismantling not just the Welch operation, but connected networks in 3 other states. The divorce was finalized. Max retained full custody of Emma, with provisions for supervised visitation after Marissa served a minimum of 18 months. Tom Schroeder had negotiated it carefully, supervised by court-appointed professionals in neutral locations, with the understanding that any violation would permanently terminate Marissa's parental rights. "It's probably more than she deserves," Tom had said during their final meeting. "But it's what Emma might need someday. You're giving your daughter options, Max. That's all you can do." Now, Max stood in the lobby of Carpenter Security Solutions, watching workers install new signage. The company had survived barely. 3 clients had left, spooked by the connection to the Welch operations. But 5 new clients had signed on, impressed by how quickly Max had identified and shut down the breach attempts. Calvin appeared beside him, coffee in hand. Looking good. New name, new contracts, new security protocols. Fresh start. Fresh start, Max agreed. The company wasn't called Carpenter Security Solutions anymore. It was now called Carpenter Stevenson Security, with Calvin as full partner. It felt right. Calvin had been instrumental in exposing the Welches, had put his career on the line to help Max. Speaking of fresh starts, Calvin said carefully, "Have you thought about what happens when Marissa becomes eligible for visitation?" "Every day, but I can't control that yet. Right now, I focus on what I can control. Emma's therapy, her stability, making sure she knows she's loved and safe." "How is she doing?" "Better. Still has nightmares sometimes. Still asks questions about why mommy made bad choices. But she's resilient. Kids are tougher than we think." Emma herself appeared from Max's office, where she'd been coloring at his desk while he handled the signage installation. At 5.5, she'd grown taller, more confident. The trauma would always be part of her story, but Max was determined it wouldn't define her story. "Daddy, can we get ice cream?" "Sure, kiddo. Let me finish here and we'll go." "Can Uncle Owen come?" "If he's free, absolutely." Owen arrived 15 minutes later, off-duty and in casual clothes. The 3 of them walked to the ice cream shop 2 blocks from Max's office, a ritual they developed over the past 3 months. Normal, safe, predictable. Got news. Owen said once Emma was absorbed in her chocolate cone. Philip Welch tried to put a hit out on Marissa from prison. Federal marshals intercepted it. He just added another 10 years to his sentence. Max felt his jaw tighten. "Is she safe?" "She's in witness protection. They moved her to a different facility under a different name. She's secure." Owen studied his brother. "You still care about her safety after everything?" "I care that Emma's mother stays alive. For Emma's sake, not for mine." "Fair enough." Owen ate his own ice cream thoughtfully. "You ever think about dating again?" "Moving on?" "Not yet. Maybe not for a while. Right now, I'm focused on Emma and the business. Everything else can wait. Just don't wait forever. You're young, Max. You deserve to be happy." "I'm happy. Different than I thought I'd be, but happy." Max watched Emma playing in the small playground attached to the ice cream shop. "I have my daughter. I have a company that's stronger than it was before. I have my brother. That's enough." But late that night, after Emma was asleep, Max sat in his home office, the same office where George Shelton had held him at gunpoint 3 months ago, and allowed himself to feel the full weight of everything that had happened. His marriage had been a lie. His wife had betrayed him for money and the affection of a criminal. He'd been used, manipulated, targeted by people who'd seen him as nothing more than a resource to exploit. But he'd survived. More than survived, he'd fought back. He'd exposed the people who'd hurt him. He'd protected his daughter. He'd rebuilt his company. He'd given Marissa a chance at redemption, not because she deserved it, but because Emma deserved options. That took strength. It took being smart, calculating, willing to use every resource at his disposal. His father would have been proud, almost proud. Even Agent Chamberlain had called him impressively ruthless in the best way during her final debrief. Max opened his laptop, pulling up the file of evidence Calvin had compiled during the investigation. He'd kept copies, encrypted, secured, hidden in multiple locations. Insurance, in case the Welches had connections he hadn't discovered yet. In case Marissa changed her mind about cooperating. In case anyone tried to hurt his daughter again. Because Max Carpenter had learned an important lesson from all of this. Being a good man didn't mean being naive. Being honest didn't mean being stupid. And protecting her family sometimes meant being willing to do things that good men typically avoided. He wasn't the same man who dropped Emma off at school 3 months ago, trusting that the world was basically safe and people were basically good. He was harder now, more calculating, less trusting, but he was also more determined, more focused on what mattered, more capable of protecting the people he loved. A notification popped up on his laptop, an email from Tom Schroeder. Subject line, Marissa's petition. Max opened it with trepidation. Max, Marissa has filed a formal request to begin therapeutic letters to Emma, supervised by court-appointed psychologists. These would be read by therapists first, then shared with Emma only if deemed appropriate. She's not asking for visits yet, just written contact. The judge is inclined to approve it as part of Marissa's rehabilitation program. Your thoughts? Max sat back, considering. Emma had stopped asking about her mother as much lately. She'd accepted that Mommy had made bad choices and was helping police, which was the child-friendly way Max had explained Marissa's cooperation and incarceration. But someday, Emma would want more answers. Someday, she'd need to make her own decisions about whether to have a relationship with her mother. This could be the first step, or it could be a mistake. Max typed his response. Approved, with conditions. Letters must be reviewed by Emma's therapist and by me before they're shared with her. Marissa must acknowledge her responsibility and not attempt to manipulate or guilt Emma. First violation, the program ends permanently. And Tom, make sure Marissa understands that this is for Emma's benefit, not hers. If she can't handle that, she shouldn't start. He hit send. A sound behind him made Max turn. Emma stood in the doorway, clutching her stuffed elephant, the one she'd had the day the phone was discovered. Daddy? I had a bad dream. Max closed his laptop and opened his arms. Emma climbed into his lap, small and warm and trusting. Tell me about it. I dreamed Mommy came home, but she wasn't really Mommy. She looked like Mommy, but she was different. She was mean. Max held his daughter closer. That sounds scary. Are you still mad at Mommy? The question caught him off guard. I'm disappointed in the choices she made, but I'm not mad anymore. Mad takes too much energy, kiddo. Does Mommy still love me? I think she does, in her own way. But sometimes people who love us still make bad choices. That doesn't mean we stop loving them. It just means we have to be careful. Will I see her again? Maybe. When you're older. When you're ready. And only if you want to. Emma nodded against his chest. Okay, can we go back to bed now? Sure thing. Max carried her back to her room, tucked her in, and sat beside her bed until she fell asleep again. He looked at her peaceful face, so young, so innocent, already carrying trauma she shouldn't have to carry. But she was strong. She was smart. She had him, had Owen, had a support system that would protect her as she grew. And someday, maybe she'd have a relationship with her mother. Maybe Marissa would prove that people could change, that mistakes didn't have to be permanent, that redemption was possible. Or maybe she wouldn't. Maybe Marissa would fail at rehabilitation the way she'd failed at marriage. Maybe the letters would stop, the supervised visits would never happen, and Emma would have to accept that her mother chose wrong again. Either way, Emma would survive, because Max will make sure of it. He returned to his office, looking at the city lights through the window. Chicago, his city, where he'd built everything, lost everything, and was rebuilding again. The Welches were in prison. George Shelton was in prison. Marissa was serving her time. The immediate threats were over. But Max Carpenter, former Mark-turned-hunter, kept his evidence files encrypted and accessible, kept his security tight, kept his guard up, because he'd learned that the world wasn't safe. The letter from Marissa arrived 6 weeks later, forwarded through Emma's therapist, Dr. Hannah Hood. Max sat in Dr. Hood's office while she reviewed it, her expression carefully neutral. "It's actually quite good," Dr. Hood finally said. "Marissa takes full responsibility for her actions. She doesn't make excuses or try to paint herself as a victim. She tells Emma that she loves her, that she made terrible choices, and that she understands if Emma never wants to see her again. Does she try to manipulate her emotionally? Not that I can see. There's one paragraph where she talks about how much she misses Emma, but it's appropriate. A mother expressing genuine emotion, not trying to guilt a child into responding." Dr. Hood looked up. "Max, I think we should share this with Emma. Not all of it, but the core message. She's ready." Max wasn't sure he agreed, but he trusted Dr. Hood. Over the past 4 months, she'd helped Emma process the trauma, develop coping mechanisms, and understand that her mother's choices weren't Emma's fault. "Okay, but I want to be there when you tell her." "Of course." That evening, in Dr. Hood's office with stuffed animals and children's books creating a safe space, Emma learned that her mother had written to her. "Your mom wanted you to know that she loves you very much," Dr. Hood explained gently. "And she wanted to say she's sorry for the bad choices she made. She knows those choices hurt you and your daddy." Emma, now 6 years old and more thoughtful than any child should have to be, considered this carefully. "Is Mommy still making bad choices?" "No, sweetie. She's working very hard to make good choices now. She's helping other people, and she's learning how to be better. Can I write back to her?" Max felt his chest tighten. "Do you want to?" Emma nodded slowly. "I want to tell her that I'm okay, that Daddy takes good care of me, and that maybe when I'm bigger, we can talk." Dr. Hood smiled. "I think that's a very mature decision, Emma. Would you like me to help you write that letter?" "Yes, please." Max watched his daughter, his brave, resilient daughter, dictate a simple letter to her incarcerated mother. It wasn't forgiveness, not quite, but it was the possibility of forgiveness someday. It was Emma choosing to leave a door open while still protecting herself. That was all Max could ask for. 18 months later, Max stood in the new offices of Carpenter Stevenson Security, located in a building twice the size of their old space. The company had grown exponentially. 15 new clients, 20 employees, contracts with 3 Fortune 500 companies who'd been impressed by Max's handling of the Welch crisis. "Not bad for a guy whose wife tried to destroy him," Calvin joked, joining Max by the window. "Former wife," Max corrected automatically. The divorce had been final for over a year now. "Right. Former wife. Speaking of which, did you hear? Marissa's up for parole next month." Max had heard. Tom Schroeder kept him informed of all developments. Marissa had been a model prisoner, completed multiple rehabilitation programs, maintained her cooperation with ongoing federal investigations into the remaining crew's family operations. "If she gets parole, the supervised visitation clause kicks in," Max said. "How do you feel about that?" "I feel like I prepared Emma as much as I can. The rest is up to them." Max turned from a window. Emma's been writing to Marissa monthly for over a year now. Small letters, talking about school and friends and Uncle Owen. Never about me, never about what happened. Just connecting. It's helped her. And has it helped Marissa? I don't know. I hope so. For Emma's sake. His phone rang. Owen, calling during his lunch break. "Hey, you busy tonight?" "Just the usual. Emma has soccer practice, then homework, then dinner." "Cancel it." "I mean, don't cancel Emma's stuff, but I'm coming over after. Bringing someone I want you to meet." Max raised an eyebrow. "Owen Carpenter, are you finally dating someone seriously?" "Maybe. Just be nice, okay? She's important." After Owen hung up, Calvin grinned. "Your brother's in love. When are you going to join him in the land of the living?" "I'm perfectly alive, thanks. You know what I mean. It's been almost 2 years since everything went down. You're allowed to move on, Max." "I have moved on. I have Emma. The company, my life is good. Your life is safe. Safe and good aren't the same thing." Calvin's expression turned serious. "Look, I'm not saying you need to get married tomorrow, but maybe consider that the best revenge against Marissa and the Welches isn't just surviving, it's thriving. Being happy, building something real." Max thought about that through the rest of the day. Was he holding back, protecting himself from more pain by refusing to be vulnerable again? Maybe. That evening, after Emma's soccer practice, Owen arrived with his girlfriend, a woman named Melanie Murphy, an ER nurse with warm eyes and an easy laugh. Emma took to her immediately, showing her drawings and chattering about school. Max watched Owen with Melanie, the way his brother smiled, the way he relaxed around her. It had been years since Owen had been this happy. She's great, Max told Owen while Melanie played a board game with Emma. She is. And Max, Owen lowered his voice. She knows everything. About Marissa, about the Welches, all of it. I didn't want secrets between us. She's still here. That's really good, Owen. Yeah, Owen studied his brother. You can have that too. When you're ready. Maybe I'm not ready yet. Or maybe you're more ready than you think, and you're just scared. Max didn't have an answer for that. 6 months later, 2 years after the arrest, the supervised visitation center was carefully designed to look non-threatening. Bright colors, comfortable furniture, toys and books scattered around. Max sat in an observation room with a one-way mirror, watching Emma color at a table. Marissa hadn't arrived yet. This would be their first face-to-face meeting since the day she'd been arrested. You don't have to watch. The court-appointed supervisor, a kind woman named Carol McCormick, told Max, you can wait outside. We'll take care of Emma. I need to be here, just in case. In case of what? In case Emma needs me. In case Marissa says something wrong. In case, Max stopped. In case everything I've built for Emma these past 2 years falls apart in the next hour. Carol gave him a sympathetic look. Mr. Carpenter, you've done an incredible job raising Emma. She's smart, well-adjusted, and resilient. Nothing that happens in this room will undo that. But you need to trust her and trust the process. The door opened. Marissa walked in, escorted by her parole officer. Max barely recognized her. The expensive clothes and perfect makeup were gone. In their place was a woman in jeans and a simple sweater, her hair pulled back in a ponytail, minimal makeup. She looked younger somehow, humbler. Emma looked up as her mother entered. For a long moment, neither moved. Then Emma stood, clutching a drawing. Hi, Mommy. Hi, baby girl. Marissa's voice broke. You got so big. I'm 7 now, almost 7.5. I know. I got your letters. Every single one. They meant everything to me. They sat down across from each other, the supervisor nearby, but giving them space. Max watched, his heart in his throat, as his daughter and ex-wife navigated this impossible moment. I brought you a drawing, Emma said, sliding the paper across the table. It's our family. See? There's me and Daddy and Uncle Owen and Uncle Owen's girlfriend, Melanie. Marissa looked at the drawing, and Max could see tears in her eyes. It's beautiful. Can I keep it? Yes. I made it for you. Emma paused. You're not in the picture because you weren't there, but I can make a new one with you in it, if you want. I like that very much. They talked for the next hour, carefully, supervised, but genuinely. Emma told her mother about school, about soccer, about her friends. Marissa listened, asked appropriate questions, didn't push for more than Emma was willing to give. When the session ended, Marissa stood. Thank you for coming, Emma. Thank you for giving me a chance. Dr. Hood says everyone deserves a second chance if they try really hard to be better. Are you trying really hard? Every day. I promise. Okay, then I'll see you next month. After Marissa left, Emma came to the observation room where Max waited. She climbed into his lap, still small enough for that, though growing fast. How was it? Max asked. It was okay. She's different than I remembered. Sadder, but nicer too. Is that weird? No, baby girl. That's called growth. People can change if they work at it. Like how you changed after Mommy left. You used to be sadder. Now you smile more. Max hugged her close. Out the mouths of babes. Yeah, like that. 1 year later, 3 years after the arrest, the courtroom was packed for the final hearing in the Welch case, an appeal that had dragged through the system for years. Max sat in the gallery, watching as the appellate judges denied Philip and Agnes Welch's final attempt to overturn their convictions. The evidence is overwhelming, the lead judge stated. The defendants orchestrated a sophisticated criminal enterprise that damaged numerous individuals and businesses. The sentences are appropriate and will stand. Max felt the last knot of tension unwind from his shoulders. It was truly over. The Welches would spend the next 2 decades in prison. George Shelton still had 12 years left on his sentence. And Marissa had completed her parole successfully. She'd maintained steady employment in a nonprofit organization, continued her therapy, and never missed a supervised visit with Emma. After 2 years of successful visits, the court had approved unsupervised day visits, though Emma still lived primarily with Max, and Marissa understood that wouldn't change. Max's phone buzzed with a text from Calvin. Heard the appeal was denied. Drinks tonight to celebrate. Another text, this one from Owen. Justice served. Again, proud of you, brother. And a third text from a number Max had programmed in recently, but still hesitated to call. Saw the news. Hope you're feeling relieved. Coffee this week? Kristen Preston, a cybersecurity consultant Max had met at a conference 6 months ago. Smart, funny, patient with his baggage. They'd been on 4 dates, and Max had carefully kept her separate from Emma and his family life. But maybe it was time to stop being so careful. He texted back, coffee sounds great. Friday. It's a date. Max smiled. A real date. Not just coffee, not just professional networking. A date with someone who knew his history and was interested anyway. That evening, he picked Emma up from her after-school program. She was 8 now, confident and thriving, captain of her soccer team and president of her 3rd grade class council. Daddy, can Mommy come to my game on Saturday? The question was asked casually, but Max knew it mattered. Do you want her there? Yeah. She hasn't seen me play yet, and she said she'd like to. Then yes. I'll let her know she's invited. Both my parents at my game, Emma said thoughtfully. That's going to be weird. But good weird. Good weird, Max agreed. Saturday arrived. Max stood on the sideline with the other parents, watching Emma dominate the midfield. Owen was there with Melanie, who'd become a permanent fixture in their lives. Calvin had brought his new girlfriend, a teacher who'd bonded with Emma over books. And Marissa stood slightly apart, clearly nervous about being in Max's orbit. But when Emma scored a goal and looked to the sidelines, Marissa cheered as loudly as everyone else. After the game, Emma ran to both her parents, first to Max for a hug, then to Marissa. Did you see my goal? I saw it. You were amazing. Marissa glanced at Max. She gets that athletic ability from you. I was terrible at sports. It was the first real conversation they'd had in years. Polite, careful, but civil. She works hard, Max said. Practices every day. She's a great kid. You've done an incredible job raising her. Max met her eyes. You're doing better too. Showing up consistently. Following through. That matters. It's the least I can do. I destroyed so much. I can't get that back. But maybe I can build something new. With Emma, if she'll let me. She will. She's more forgiving than either of us probably deserves. They stood there for a moment. 2 people who'd been married and torn apart, now trying to be functional co-parents for the sake of their daughter. I heard you're dating someone, Marissa said suddenly. Emma mentioned a woman named Kristen. Max stiffened. Emma wasn't supposed to. It's okay. I'm glad. You deserve happiness. Max, real happiness. Not the fake version I gave you. Marissa looked at Emma, who was celebrating with her teammates. I hope this one's real. I hope she sees what I was too stupid to see. That you're a good man worth keeping. She walked away before Max could respond, joining Emma on the field. Owen appeared at Max's elbow. That looked intense. It was civil. Actual communication. Might be the first honest conversation Marissa and I have had in our entire relationship. Progress, then? Yeah. Max watched his daughter. Happy, healthy, loved by both parents despite everything. Progress. 6 months later, 4 years after the arrest, Max Carpenter stood in his backyard, watching as Emma played with Owen's new puppy. The yard had been updated, new fence, new patio, new everything. The house barely resembled the place where George Shelton had held him at gunpoint 4 years ago. Good. He wanted no reminders of that night. Kristen emerged from the house, carrying drinks. They'd been dating for a year now, and she'd met Emma 3 months ago. The introduction had been careful, planned, supervised by Dr. Hood. Emma had liked her immediately. Your daughter is negotiating with your brother about keeping the puppy here on weekends, Kristen reported. She's remarkably persuasive. She gets that from her mother, Max said without thinking. Then paused. The good parts, anyway. The intelligence, the charm. Before everything went wrong. You don't talk about Marissa much. Not much to say. She's in Emma's life now, doing well. We co-parent effectively. That's all we need to be. Kristen studied him. Max, can I ask you something serious? Sure. Are you ever going to trust me completely? Or will there always be a part of you holding back, waiting for me to betray you like Marissa did? The question hit harder than Max expected. He turned to face her fully. I don't know, he admitted. I want to trust you. You've given me no reason not to. But there's this voice in the back of my head that says I trusted Marissa completely. And look how that ended. I'm not Marissa. I know that. Logically, I know that. But emotionally, Max ran his hand through his hair. Kristen, Marissa didn't just cheat on me. She weaponized our entire marriage. She used my trust, my love, my daughter to help criminals hurt people. She let dangerous people into our lives. She almost got me killed. I know, and I'm not asking you to forget that or pretend it didn't happen. But I'm asking you to consider that maybe, eventually, you could let yourself be vulnerable again. Really vulnerable. Not just dating, not just being in a relationship, but actually trusting someone with your whole heart. What if I can't? Then we figure that out together. But Max, I'm not going to spend our entire relationship paying for Marissa's sins. At some point, you have to decide if you're going to let what she did define the rest of your life. Emma's laugh rang out across the yard as the puppy licked her face. Owen and Melanie were clearly losing the negotiation about weekend custody. Max looked at his daughter, the girl who'd been through hell and come out stronger. The girl who'd learned to forgive her mother without forgetting what happened. The girl who'd taught Max that second chances didn't mean being stupid. They meant being brave enough to hope. He turned back to Kristen. I want to try, really try, to trust you, to be open, to build something real. I'm scared I'll screw it up, but I want to try. Kristen smiled. That's all I'm asking. Max pulled her close, kissing her properly for the first time in front of his family. Owen whistled appreciatively. Emma made exaggerated gagging sounds, but couldn't hide her smile. For the first time in 4 years, Max Carpenter felt genuinely, unreservedly happy. Not safe, not just surviving, but actually happy. Epilogue, 5 years after the arrest. The wedding was small, just family and close friends. Max stood at the altar, watching Kristen walk down the aisle in a simple white dress. Emma was her flower girl, taking the role very seriously. Owen was his best man. Melanie was maid of honor. Calvin and his wife were there, along with Agent Chamberlain, Detective Johns, and Tom Schroeder, the people who'd helped Max survive the worst period of his life. And in the back row, with permission but appropriately distant, sat Marissa. She'd been invited. Emma had insisted. She wore a modest dress, no jewelry, and spent the ceremony quietly crying. When Max and Kristen were pronounced husband and wife, the small gathering erupted in applause. Emma jumped up and down, thrilled to officially have a stepmother who loved her. At the reception, Marissa approached Max carefully. Congratulations. She's perfect for you. Thank you. And thank you for being here for Emma. I know it couldn't have been easy. It was the right thing to do. She deserves to see what a good marriage looks like. Marissa paused. I'm proud of you, Max, for surviving what I did to you, for thriving, for being an amazing father. I'm proud of you, too, for turning your life around, for being consistent with Emma, for actually changing instead of just claiming to. I had a good example. You always did the right thing, even when it was hard, especially when it was hard. Marissa glanced at Emma, who was dancing with Owen. She's lucky to have you as her father. She's lucky to have both of us now. Better versions of both of us. After Marissa left, Kristen joined Max. That looked civil. We've come a long way from where we started. From enemies to co-parents. That's growth. Max looked around the reception, at his brother, his daughter, his new wife, his rebuilt company, his reclaimed life. 5 years ago, he'd been standing in a principal's office learning that his entire life was a lie. 5 years ago, he'd thought his world had ended. He'd been wrong. His world had just been reborn. You know what the best revenge is? Max said quietly to Kristen. What? Not just surviving. Not even thriving. It's being genuinely happy. So happy that what they try to destroy doesn't matter anymore, because you built something even better from the ruins. Kristen kissed him. To happiness, then, and to leaving the past where it belongs. To happiness, Max agreed. Emma ran up, grabbing both their hands. Come dance. This is the best day ever. As Max let his daughter pull him onto the dance floor, Kristen beside him, Owen and Melanie joining them, Calvin and his wife laughing nearby, Max realized something profound. The people who tried to destroy him, Marissa, George Shelton, the Welches, they'd failed completely. Not just because they were in prison, or in Marissa's case, rebuilding under strict supervision, but because they tried to break a man who was unbreakable. They'd underestimated him. Thought he was weak because he was honest, naive because he was trusting, easy to destroy because he was good. They'd learned the hard way that good men weren't weak. They were patient. And when pushed, they fought back with intelligence, determination, and an absolute refusal to give up. Max Carpenter had been tested by fire. He'd lost his marriage, nearly lost his business, been betrayed by the person he trusted most. And he'd come through it stronger, smarter, and happier than he'd ever been. That was the real victory. Not revenge, not punishment, not even justice. Just happiness, hard-earned, well-deserved, unshakable happiness. And as Max danced with his new wife and daughter, surrounded by people who genuinely loved him, he finally let go of the last remnants of pain and anger. He was free, truly, finally free. And for Max Carpenter, that was the best ending of all. And there you have it. Another story comes to an end. What did you think? I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoy this story, consider joining our community by subscribing. It means the world to us. For more stories like this one, check out the recommended videos on screen. And I'll see you there.